Track templates are fitted. Cork's getting glued down. The essential brew holder. Finally, we're gluing track. And obviously, there's some wiring to be done too. Back on what will be the station scene, the lower level running board is now glued and screwed in place. That is where it will run off scene and across the lift out section. Will come in, follow down, and then disappear off again off scene here. The second line here is running into a dead end platform, and then the main running lines will sit above there. You can see I've got the pad or the pen aided design system out and have put my stencil on, cut it with the craft knife, and I've just made some Sharpie lines on the plywood very loosely on where my track's going to be and where it's going to wind off. So the next stage here is going to be to lift up this template and then put my cork down for this section. So that section there is corked, and I've corked the entrance gap through the seam break there, which we'll have a look at in a minute. But I'll then cork this section so that's ready to go, and then put my code 75 concrete sleeper in and transition it back to code 100 where it goes off scene. Reason I'm doing that is just to give it more stability, more rigidity, and longer lasting strength really when it's off scene, so I haven't got to worry about it as much. I've also installed my teacup holder stroke pint holder, so perfect there, off scene. These are glued and screwed, that's just a holding screw, so that's going to come out. I'll fill that and then we'll paint that so that I can pop a brew in there. Something you forget about when everything is running, you don't want to be putting a cup of tea on a working surface, so I've built myself in there what would have been dead space, a nice cup holder. The Scenic brake is in, 18mm MDF. You can see at the back there the two incline lines. The further one away is running down, this one's running up. I have very loosely just placed in some flexi there. That's wired, and as you can see there, and wired into the bus below, and that one there is also wired to the same bus and will fit on the end to go through the Scenic brake, which I've glued and prepped. So we'll look at that when I go around the other side. So you've got the two lines there, you've then got the lower level loop line here running out of the station, and then this is the hole where the four main lines will run through and go across. So very simply, a piece of 18mm ply. Why have I used 18mm ply? Because of its strength and rigidity, and then that's butted up to the units with a piece of 9mm glued onto the MDF just to give it some rigidity there as well. And then if I come round to the door side, again you can see the hole. So you've got your four main running lines coming out, your lower level loop, and then your decline into the fiddle yard and your incline up to the running levels. Now the way I've done these is measured and cut, but cut lower than the level the lines are coming out at. Now the reason I've done that is so that I could put in some 9mm MDF at exactly the same level as the MDF that comes up the other side, and then put the cork on top. I've there put that in, leveled it and glued it, and then gone and filled, so that when I paint the outside it'll be a nice slick smooth finish. As you enter the room, it's one of the first things you're going to see, so it's important that this look right. And then around the edges, just to tidy it up, but also to protect the edges of the track, which would button up to the edge of the cork here, I've just got some very thin sort of finishing trim, which I'm going to glue onto there, and then that will be painted. So as you come in, if anybody just brush past it with a loose sleeve or something like that, it's not going to catch the edge of the track, and also it'll just finish off the portholes quite nicely. And obviously from there they will flow across onto this side, which is my next project. So quick update there. Next project which I'm going to work on now is getting the cork glued down. So I'll get the cork glued down and then I'll be back. Both sections of the cork now laid, so the exit there to the lift out section, running what will be through the lower level station and then back out off scene. So that's the last bit of cork there, just pressed down around the corner and across the front. Several different ways to lay cork. I don't actually cut mine to go around the corners. If you use a wood glue, I use a Gorilla, put it on, let it go slightly tacky, and then I stick it down. It will generally hold pretty well, and it'll mean you haven't got to do the little diamond cuts in the corner to help it bend. I've not had a problem with it. I've used that technique several times and it's worked really well, so I've gone for it again here. I'm on to gluing some track and some cork track bed down. So I've got the corner piece coming out of the Scenic brake glued. Then coming round, I've also got glued the bay dead end platform cork bed, and then the Fanta cans and MDF are currently just holding down the track bed for the loop. And then I have got the two pieces over the join in the baseboards to go off scene. So just to talk very loosely around what I do here, completely different to anybody else, but I find it works, and I've done it on all the inclines as well, and that's where I got the idea from. So this is a piece of DCC Concepts power base. What I do with that is I cut it, Gorilla glue it across the join, leaving a slight gap where the join is. I then use off scene set track because of its rigidity, and then place it across the join exactly where I need it. And on top of the power base, I actually super glue the track bed down there so it's rock solid, away from the track bed, either copied X in this instance, to secure it. It's easy for me to say. And then what I'll do with the Dremel very carefully is just cut through and cut through. What that will give me is a 100% accurate join, and it will be rock solid. Now, in the eventuality that we ever move and the line and the track or the layout moves, it will then just piece back together, and there's a high chance that will be in exactly the right place. I've done exactly the same technique at the back here where the incline goes, and if you just look through the gap there, you can see where the cork bed, the cork bed splits, and I'm going to nip those with the Dremel. And what that will do is that will again give me 100% accuracy in that join being absolutely fine. Quick update on where we are. So the coffee holder is in, glued. I've started filling it and I'm going to start sanding it back, prepping that for some paint. I have glued and removed the first sections of concrete sleeper code 75 on the actual running loop. So they are glued, they are connected that end to the set track and the code 75 to code 100 transition piece through the gap and across the running board. The up and down lines from the fiddle yard are glued and powered into the bus, so they're all ready to go, and they're set dead to the end of the Scenic brake as well, so they're now ready for the lift out section that's going to go in there. I've loosely placed the piece of code 100 ready for the dead end station. I'll come back to that in a second. So the code 75 concrete sleeper goes through the transition piece and then runs itself around on the closest line past where the cross-country coach is, and then makes a slight bend into another piece of set track there, which I'll do my normal trick on, which is cut across the join. And then where the cans are, that is corked and DCC Concepts power base laid along there, because that'll still be possibly pulling up from the incline all the way to the edge of that baseboard. So they've been glued. I'm going to lift those off in a minute, pull the blue protection back, and then I've got a piece of track ready to start laying around this corner here. I've loosely placed at the back, and that's why the clearances there are very thin, some track to put in the shuttle system. So that'll be the next piece I'll work on, is to get this piece glued. I need to cut a piece for there and then around there. There is a slight super elevation on the two curves for the lower level loop. It's not massive. You might be able to pick it up. It is only very slight, and that's because it's coming into the station. I don't want it too aggressive, but I do want a slight sign of some super elevation, and I'll do the same on the return shuttle there. So then just swinging round, I'm going to first of all remove those, get that bit of track down. I'll get a couple of bits of track down up until the end. I then also got my first piece of concrete sleeper to lay up the incline there, which I will possibly do at the same time. So that's where I am. I'll leave it there for a minute and I'll be back in a bit. There we go. So I now have track gluing for the lower level loop. So it's coming off of the section that I've talked through previously, over the baseboard join, which I've got to cut. And then there are two sections of flexi track gluing all the way down to where I've just got to put my piece of set track on for across the next joint. As and when that's dry, I'll put my DCC Concepts power base on that section there, and I have a piece of flexi pre-soldered both ends to fit on the start of that incline into the Scenic section. So with that done and that drying, until I can get over to the far side there to do the next stage, I'm going to switch my attention to finishing this shuttle system. So as a recap, there's going to be a dead end bay platform there. It'll work its way out, go off scene, travel around, out of view, and stop, pause, and then make its way back around, back on scene, and then wait at the station. So I'm going to do this using a DCC Zen Black shuttle system, a couple of the ABC boards, and get it all in place. So I'm going to do it. I'll come back when I've got it in and got it done, but I am going to do a separate video specifically on how I do it, because I think that the DCC concepts instructions are okay. They're not terrifically clear if you just want to shuttle one end to the other. The ones that I've printed off are very much about having a station to pause at and carry on. So I'm going to go do it, film bits and pieces of it, and then I'll come back with hopefully a working system. I can't remember what I'd done at the last update, and I've done a little bit of tinkering here and there, so I'm going to give you an overview of where we are at the moment. So my focus has been on this lower level running loop or branch line. Not quite sure what I'm going to call it yet. So I have laid all the track, it's all glued. There's a super elevation here and here. So this line here is going to be the auto reversing line. So it's just going to shuttle one end to the other. And this is going to be the continuous running loop on the lower level. I have, as you can see, painted the ply black where it will disappear into the tunnels, just as a foundation colour for what comes next. Then moving round, a couple of bits of rolling stock there where I've just been testing rolling. So the shuttle finishes there, and then the running line goes around. Board is prepped to there with the DCC Concepts power base. It will then go through this point, carry on and through this point. So just explain what these points are. So coming from this side, the line will come, and then it's either got the option of taking a left and running up the incline and up to the top level where the actual sort of junction for Welbeck Junction will be, or it can carry on, fork right, run down that line and join up there where those Freightliner wagons are, and that is the start of the downward incline towards the fiddle yard. Or it carries on through straight and joins onto the lower level running loop, which we've just looked at, that runs all the way around. So in terms of where I am with wiring, all of the lower level loop is wired and then wired down into the terminal blocks. Where is the rest of it? There it is there. So my normal black and red power, black to the back, and where you can see blue, this is the shuttle, DCC Concept shuttle wiring that's in. I haven't done anything below with it yet. I've got to wire them in. They are there ready to go. But in all honesty, now that that's in and powered bar the modules, I'm just going to leave it as it is for the minute, because I want to get the lower level loop done. Again, on this side, all of the power is run down and into the corresponding power blocks, and again on this side, all wired down and then into the corresponding power supply. The incline up to the main running levels is fitted with a power base. Where the join is in the baseboard there, this baseboard I'm going to lift up, and I'll just tell you about that in a minute. So the piece of track is already wired with the droppers, because I pre-wire track with droppers before I fit it. I don't fit it and then mess about soldering droppers on, and they look awful then when you ballast around them. So that one's ready to go. Why I haven't fitted that yet is because this board is my focus today. So first things, I need to swap the red and the black on that point, because it was going to be used somewhere else, and I'm going to reuse it here. Wire that point up, glue them, fit the point motors on them, and then I want to flip the base up so I can get to the underside to wire in the electrics on the underside, the frog juicer, etc. Then drop it down and then hard fit this base piece. Once I've done that, I can glue that track, glue it up towards where those freight containers are, and then also glue over the joint here, ready to cut that. Probably won't bother too much with this at the moment, because that's going to the higher level line, and I got some bits and pieces to do on that, ready for when I do Scenic it. And then once I get to here, I'm sort of at a point then where I have to sort this board out here, which I'm using as sort of my base. So my intentions are, I think this could change, is to get to here today. I might then fit this base, lift it, put the battens around it, and then hard fit that base. I then need to, oh yeah, I've painted, put a base coat of white on here as well. Where these lines are running through, put the end board on here, get those lines to the right height, so that then I can go and fit the equivalent risers onto this section. By doing that, I'll know where the lines come in, where they loop round, and more importantly then how the crossing of the board here meets this point here. That does mean that all this is going to have to move. So this is then going to force me to build my new modelling desk, which I know what I'm going to do. So it'll just be a matter of building it, and then I can actually have this space somewhere else to be able to build and kit bash, etc, etc, and I can get the lower level loop finished. So that's where I am. So I'm going to crack on and be back with an update shortly. Track is laid and cut at the point of the transition from the first board over the fiddle yard to the second board. So I've lifted the second board, and where the track is on the reverse side and the droppers are fed through, I'm now going to tidy them up and pop them into the power distribution block. So this one here is obviously track, got the droppers coming through, and then I've also got my point motor wires and frog juicers. So I'm going to wire these in at the same time down this board, and then I can drop that board back into the gap and fix it the same way I fixed that one. And then I'm going to be able to test them running from here all the way around, up to the backboard here. Track is laid and cut at the point of the transition from the first board over the fiddle yard to the second board. So I've lifted the second board, and where the track is on the reverse side and the droppers are fed through, I'm now going to tidy them up and pop them into the power distribution block. So this one here is obviously track, got the droppers coming through, and then I've also got my point motor wires and frog juicers. So I'm going to wire these in at the same time down this board, and then I can drop that board back into the gap and fix it the same way I fixed that one. And then I'm going to be able to test them running from here all the way around, up to the backboard here. Right, so wired up, I have wired in the track power to the bus. The bus is connected to the point controller. I've got the frog juicer in as well. Just tidied up all of the cabling. There is the other one. So what I'm going to do now is drop this one back on and fix it down. Board back down and fixed. So battens on at the front, screw from the underneath, so that's now solid. Points are now wired with point motors, Pico surface mounted, just easier than going underneath the board, just as reliable. They're moving across, the track is cut. I have had some sort of reaction there, I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's not going to be visible and it's not affected the structural integrity of the track, so that's all fitted. Stuff rolls across absolutely fine. I then glued the first piece of concrete sleeper from the code 100 to code 75 transition there, and that's running up and across the baseboard join. So that will then be ready for another piece. Once that's dry, dropper wires are in and wired on that, and yeah, I'm pleased with that. So that is now in. I've now got the issue of getting across to that section over there. So to do that, all this has got to move. So the next project is getting the modelling desk finished so that this can move, and then I can get the track over there across the doorway, work out where the corner is, so that then it can come down and join into this piece here. I've also got a plan for something to sit here, but we'll come back to that at a later point.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you've enjoyed it, any of the content, or you've got any comments, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. If you get a chance, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe, and YouTube are going to suggest a couple of things which you might enjoy watching. So until next time, thanks ever so much and look after yourselves.